This is going to be Gnomeregan as Mistweaver Monk. I'm not an expert at this game, this is not a dungeon guide, this is my experience with a random dungeon group. So, this is actually this character's second run in Gnomeregan. Oh, I have my healing and damage meters up down there. I think I had just installed that add-on. You won't see those in very many runs at all. Just kind of figuring out how they work here. Anyway, yeah, so had to run this one twice because my first run through here was just kind of a disaster. This one doesn't go super great either. From what I've heard, pretty much nobody really likes this dungeon. Yeah, it's a weird one. So yeah, just a few things to fight here. This druid has pulled quite a few things. What am I doing? Why was I not pressing my heal buttons there? I don't know, I was fumbling with something, I guess. Anyway, got him back up. Everybody's fine. There's some whole party damage going on here. I have to pay attention. Ah, so I have a new ability, I see. Oh, also I'm level 34 now. Maraudon, Earthsong Falls. I'll be going there eventually. So number 6 there is Tiger's Lust. That's not an ability I get just for leveling up. That one is a talent that I took. There are different talent builds, so it used to be, back when I played long ago, that for each specialization, 3 per class, you'd get a different talent tree, which was this big, complicated, like, list of abilities and bonuses you could take, which some were prerequisites for others. You'd have to just sort of figure out how to navigate your way through the thing, spending talent points to get to the good stuff at the bottom. And in fact, that was what a specialization was. You just start in one talent tree of 3 and go down it, and that was what made you that kind of, that specialization for that class. You could even do unconventional things like generalize, you know, just take the easiest to reach talents in all 3 trees. You didn't want to because it was never any good, but you could. So at some point that changed. I think maybe, I don't know which expansion it was, but sometime after I stopped playing, the most recent time, it was changed so that you actually choose a specialization. I think at level 15, that's where you get your first talent point. So there aren't very many talent points now. And your chosen specialization decides, locks you into that talent tree. Then you take 1 talent point per each 15 levels. So, Tiger's Lust was one of my 3 choices. I guess it must have been for level 30, since I passed that since the last one of these that was done. These might be slightly out of order, because I don't know if I'll be... Well, don't worry about it. We'll see what happens. Anyway, yeah, so Tiger's Lust is an ability that basically increases my run speed for a little while, or the target's run speed. I can do it to myself, I can do it to another person. Also removes all root effects on them. I suspect it's supposed to be a PvP ability primarily, but I find it useful with my playstyle. There are other, 2 other possibly viable talents I could take. What's nice is with these new talent trees, it seems like pretty much however you build your character is pretty viable. There are some that are pretty clearly for PvP. This one's not as clear, like it could be, but I don't know. I find it useful, so that's what I use. Anyway, I don't know if you'll see me actually use it in this dungeon, but I'm sure I will at some point.
I need to target something first.
So Gnomeregan is another dungeon that I think was fairly heftily changed. Not sure exactly what's going on here. The walls collapse, a bunch of really weak enemies come out of them, then eventually a boss shows up. These grime-encrusted objects that I'm getting. So I remember this place being a big, horrible maze that was just a nightmare every time I would come to it. It seems like the maze is a lot less now. There isn't nearly as much dungeon that we end up going through here. I don't know, it's strange. Anyway, so the grime-encrusted objects were supposed to be taken to some machine that was tucked away in some remote corner of this dungeon, and you could clean them off and get something out. I remember the something that you got was always not worth it at all. Yeah, trying to figure out how to use my add-on here. There's like nothing going on, you know? Nobody really needs to pay attention to it. Basically just wait for the boss to show up, you know? If stuff's attacking you, kill it, I guess, but don't really care. Stay back, she says, but I don't think that explosion actually does any damage. Yeah, look how tiny that is. But you don't want to actually be in the tunnel, probably? I don't know what happens if you are. You might just die. I've never tested. Now we do it again on this side, I think. Or did we already? And now it's the boss? All this unnecessary waiting, like, what is this? So yeah, that passage collapses, and right, then we do it on the other side. Yeah, so you do this twice. For some reason. There's basically just nothing for, like, anybody to do during this phase. Just stand there and wait. Tiny, tiny bit of fighting, but it's just nothing. Alright, this is a real monster. Has that gold dragon around its portrait frame. It means it's elite. So, you know, you would have trouble taking this out by yourself at this level. This is why you bring a whole dungeon group. That right there is a hunter trap, I think. Again, don't know the hunter class super well, but I know they can set traps that look like that. I don't understand the point of what's going on here. Like, she sets a bomb that blows open a wall, then sets another bomb that closes it, then does the same thing on the other side, and somehow this results in a boss being summoned eventually. Chomper, is that the boss, or is that just another... That didn't look like a boss to me. Grubbus, is that the boss? Maybe. Yeah, Chomper was his pet. That could be. So he doesn't have a thing over on the right. The, you know, the little portrait frame that shows up under the minimap sometimes. Don't know what that means. Don't know why it shows up for some bosses and not others. Maybe this is not a boss. It's just somebody in the dungeon. These things just aren't really explained anywhere. Yeah, okay. That was a boss, I guess. So, the quests that you can pick up at the start of this dungeon, I already did them on my first run here. One of them gives you a usable parachute. The next step here, I believe, is to jump through that, down that big shaft in the middle and land below. And the parachute makes that a lot friendlier to your health. I don't have the parachute. With stuff like that, usually you can talk to the quest giver and get another item even if you're not on the quest. I didn't think to try, so I'm just going to be taking fall damage when we go down there. Hold on, there are quests here. Oh yeah, so if you take a left here, I think that's the place where you would get the grime-encrusted object cleaner. But everybody I've seen do this dungeon seems to prefer just jumping right down the middle and skipping, like, a lot of stuff. So maybe if you just walk down instead of jumping, it's more reasonable. I don't know. We'll see what the group decides to do. If we are jumping down, then it seems like there'd be no reason to kill these. Something about those irradiated pillagers deals a lot of damage to everybody. I'm not sure if just standing near them causes this, or if it's some action that they're taking. I should figure that out someday. Seems like a thing that I should know. I've recently read up on some more tips for playing the class that I'm playing. And I'm trying to adjust the way I heal because I'm running into problems now. Okay, yeah, you have the parachute. That's what it looks like. It's not really a parachute, it just makes you fall slower. I didn't have one on me, so I'm going to take a bunch of fall damage there. So are the other people who didn't have them. So what I don't like about jumping down here is it puts you in the middle of a whole bunch of monsters. And this druid is very optimistic and is trying to gather them up, but not really keeping them off of me. So I try to stand right where he is and bring them all to him. But some things do end up going wrong here. Anyway, yeah, so at the point in the game that I'm at now, I'm having mana problems. Apparently that's just sort of a Mistweaver thing, like they're not as mana efficient as other healers. Nature locked. I got interrupted, so I can't cast spells for 3 seconds. Okay, so I see what I'm doing here. I was trying to Soothing Mist and Vivify to keep the druid alive, but then I got interrupted again. Enveloping Mist probably would have been a better choice there. So I'm rolling over to my other party members, hoping they can keep us safe for a moment. But I keep getting interrupted. Theoretically, I could learn which enemy it is that's doing that, and not be near them, or, you know, make sure the party kills them first. The thing about Mistweaver healing is, like, I kind of have a ramp-up time before things start working well. So, you know, if I'm taking a bunch of damage and need to just immediately heal myself, at least with the tools I have at this level, I just don't have a really good way to do it. Yeah, so this looks kind of bad. Everybody's just dying all over the place. Trying to get back to where we were. I don't want to attract the attention of this thing to my right, but I'm going to. So bring it over here, hope we can survive. That doesn't look good, nope. So yeah, jumping down the middle is a big mess if everybody's not exactly ready to do it. It's a bunch of dying and running back. And since not everybody is dying at the exact same time, you know, we're all split up, disorganized, trying to get back to where everybody else is. I was hoping I could heal from up there somehow. Surprisingly, this druid survived until I got to him there. That seemed unlikely, but it happened somehow. Yeah, so you know, this is the downside to taking shortcuts like this in the dungeon. When I'm playing as the group leader, I'm probably not going to be taking shortcuts like this, because it just does not seem like a good idea. Somebody left because of this. Right, oh no, things aren't going perfectly. Let's leave and try again later. So if you leave a dungeon before the first boss has gone down, you get a debuff that doesn't let you use the dungeon finder for half an hour. We've already killed a boss in here, so I assume the person who left didn't get that penalty. So yeah, that's there to encourage you to, you know, try to stick with the group and actually make it work. My take on this is, as long as people are actually trying to play the game and, you know, not just causing trouble for everybody, or, you know, I'm okay with stuff like this. It's part of the fun. Not every run has to go perfectly. This is a game of improvisation. You have to be able to adapt to situations and different group dynamics. Especially if you want to be in the dungeon finder and not, like, talk to people. You know, You'll see some runs later where the party's a bit chattier and has to actually coordinate for tactics and things. And those are good too, but, you know, this is fine. Dungeon run's not going great, but I certainly would not even consider leaving the dungeon at this point. Nothing there was going badly enough for, oh, somebody brought
Be careful, man.
a vendor. Yeah, so another thing. Every time you die in this game, your equipment takes a bunch of damage. Most equipment has durability, and you have to pay to get it fixed. So the usual flow is, you know, do a dungeon run, go to somebody who can repair gear, press the repair button, pay a few gold, and everything's repaired again. If you don't do that for too long, your stuff breaks, and, you know, you don't lose the item or anything, but it just stops working until you repair it, and it gets more and more expensive to repair as it breaks more. So I usually just make sure all my stuff is repaired after every dungeon run. If you die enough times in a row during one single run, then all your stuff's going to break. So if a dungeon goes badly enough, you might need to actually teleport out and repair and then come back, or if you have the means to summon a portable shopkeeper who can repair in the dungeon, like those just were there, then you can do it that way. Anyway, so we're finally out of the horrible pit, on to the next part of the dungeon. The rest of this goes reasonably smoothly, I think. It's just that one jump into the pit is a big mess. That's how everybody does this dungeon for some reason. I don't think it's a good idea to do it that way. So let's see, hallway here, then 2 more bosses, I think. I wasn't really paying attention. Did we lose the Warlock? Or is the Warlock still with us? Warlock's still with us. We lost the Hunter and got a Shaman instead. Right. So that roll ability that I just used accelerates me forward, has 2 charges, so, you know, I can use it twice, then the cooldown starts and it'll charge up to 1 charge, then it keeps on charging back up to 2. It seems like most or all the classes have their own way of moving faster every once in a while, so that's what the monk gets. And Tiger's Lust gives me an additional way to move fast. Has a long cooldown on it, you know, roll has a medium length cooldown on it. So I can't move fast all the time, but when I haven't done it for a while, and there's nothing else going on, that's how I can get where I need to be. So that little gnome that we're fighting now was using a gun. Enemies that use guns are pretty annoying because you can't really position them as easily as others. If you walk away, they won't come to you. So anything that's in melee, you know, it'll just follow you to follow the highest threat of its targets to wherever they go. So positioning is very easy for those. But if it has a gun, it'll just stand in place and shoot you no matter where you walk, unless you get out of line of sight. So you can get, like, move behind, say, this archway, on my left and right here. You could attack, then hide behind one half of it, and have everybody, including casters and ranged enemies, come to your position. This druid wants another group. Probably thinking to myself, okay, possible heavy healing coming up here. Should be ready. This is pulled 2 at a time. In this situation, that's probably fine. In others, it might not be. Right, yeah, so ranged units like that take some extra consideration on how to reposition them. If it's a caster, then you can potentially interrupt a spell, locking it out of that school of magic for a few seconds, just like was done to me earlier. And then they'll have nothing they're interested in doing when standing in place, so they'll run right to you. But you can't interrupt somebody with a gun or a bow. They just won't move unless you either get out of line of sight or move really far away. Or if you're playing as a Death Knight, you can use Death Grip, which will pull an enemy from far away to your location. So this is one area where Death Knight tanks really excel. However, Death Knights are created starting at level 55, and this is a much lower level dungeon than that. So we won't be seeing Death Knights for quite a few levels yet. I'm still not at the point where I'm seeing Demon Hunters. Those are created at level 98, I think. So they start at a high level.
Electric justice.
So right, second to last boss here, I think. So Druid just used a taunt to try to move this boss back to him. But it looks like more damage was coming from that position over there. So he couldn't get enough threats from a distance. Really seems to want this guy to be in the middle. But since the damage dealers were hitting him so hard from over there, they were generating more threat than the bear was. And keeping him in the wrong position. Not that it looks to me like it matters where this boss is positioned. You know, even when not playing as tank, these are important mechanics to be aware of. You'll see later, I'll do some specific positioning things just to make the tank's life easier. Yeah, I'll talk about those when I get to them. I got this workshop key, and I always I always forget what there is to do with it. Is this another jump down? Looks like it. You still have a parachute, I still don't. I'll bet there's a friendlier way around here. Yeah, everybody jumps down, takes a bunch of damage, just because it's the quickest way. It was fine that time. That one didn't turn into such a mess. There aren't as many monsters waiting for you at the bottom of that pit. Looks like I'm not doing a whole lot of dispelling. I think I haven't gotten used to having my detox ability by now. Also, the debuffs haven't been too nasty. But yeah, if I can see the icon on the left, like that little flame thing under that shaman's name, if I can see it, then I can dispel it. Curses will not show up there. There's like different categories of debuffs, so there's curse, poison, disease, and magic. I can remove magic, poison, and disease, but not curse. So if it's a curse, there's nothing I can do about it. But if it's not a curse, and there's something I can do about it, the icon will show up. So I know that if I target that player and press my detox button, it'll get rid of the problem. Some heavy damage is happening. I don't know what's going on here. Where did all these come from? What is this? I'm ready for it this time. I'm keeping up. I don't know where this, like, 20 enemies came from. Are they spawning from something that was already in combat? I don't know. That kind of happened without me really seeing what had happened. Since I have a damage meter up, well, it's not really showing me the most useful numbers. Yeah, don't pay attention to that thing. It's not really telling me anything all that informative. I'm doing the most healing in the dungeon of all of these people. Big surprise there. Druid's doing the most damage. Mostly just because he has the most uptime on anything. Yeah, that's probably not the way to go. You're going ahead and attacking things and not waiting for your bear. Not really ideal. You'll probably get away with it in this situation, but that's not the way to play. Just wait. Be patient. Don't go ahead of the group leader. Ah, I'm figuring out how to detox. There it was. I read the message, read my ability, and figured out I could do something about it. That looked like a flame shock icon, which is a shaman thing. Is there some sort of like spell reflection going on, maybe? I feel like the shaman is casting, that's an elemental shaman there, I guess, is casting flame shock on an enemy that's then reflecting right back onto him or something. That is a thing that can happen. Most of the characters I've played in this game have not been offensive magic users. Spent a decent amount of time playing a mage, but not that much as the others. So I'm less familiar with things like spell reflection as mechanics than some others. I've mostly played either healers or melee damage dealer or tank types. With a spell like Arcane Nullifier, X21, and that big green glowy effect, I feel like, yeah, it probably is spell reflection that's going on. And this whole thing just goes on for way longer than it feels like it should. We're at the door to the final boss now, at least. Oh, right, he's a talky one. Prepare for a bunch of noise. After that initial burst of damage, he's not really doing all that much. Alright, this was back when I thought it was a good idea to use Tiger Palm to get 2 or 3 charges and Blackout Kick before using that. So I prioritize my melee hits quite a bit differently nowadays than what I was doing there. Yeah. Be quiet. There we go, that's done. Okay, so fortunately I don't have to come back to this mess of a dungeon again. At least not as this character. For some reason, I just sort of stand around here. Oh, right. So when I queue for a random dungeon, I get this satchel of helpful goods here that I'll open in a moment. Comes with an appropriately leveled thing for my class. So I get a boots upgrade. That's nice. Alright, done with that dungeons. No quests to turn in because I've already done them. Alright, see you for the next one.